Hello, Internet. Should white people make rap music? This is something that's been discussed since the beginning of hip hop. And as a white person who makes rap music myself, I wanted to talk about it and see what other people think. So let's get into it. First, I want to say I am not speaking on behalf of hip hop. I'm not speaking on behalf of rap music. I am not speaking on behalf of any group at all. I am only speaking from my perspective about myself, from my personal experience. So, a lot of times you'll hear with white rappers, they'll say things like, I'm a guest in the house of hip hop, right? And I think that that probably does apply to some white rappers. But if you're just like an average person making rap music and that's how you think about it, I think that's a little bit flawed. So, in order to be a guest anywhere, you have to be invited, right? So, if you were not invited to the house of hip hop and you're just posting rap music on the internet, you're not a guest in the house of hip hop, right? Because you weren't invited. You're just showing up unannounced and expecting to be treated like a guest, which in a way, I guess, is better than just showing up and being like, this is mine now, which there are some people that do that too, you know? But the way I see it, and the way I've always tried to see it from the beginning, is I just make the music that I think I should make. And if people like it, great. If they don't, it is what it is. I have no say in how my music is perceived by anybody, any group, any type of person, any culture. All I can do is make what I think I should make and put it out into the world. Other than that, I have no control over the way it's perceived. And, you know, I grew up listening to hip hop and rap my whole life. I grew up in New Jersey. My dad is born and raised in the Bronx. You know, he wasn't making hip hop himself, but he was involved in music and he always has been a fan of music. So this has been something that's been a part of my life for a very long time. I felt connected to it, partially because of where I grew up and partially because it's just music that I enjoy listening to and music that I later found out that I enjoy making. So I don't think there's anything wrong with making what you want to make. But with that said, you can't be upset if people don't like it, you know? It's I feel like this applies to anything. I truly believe that people should express themselves openly. Whether it's I don't care how hateful you are, whatever you think, you should say it publicly if you feel inclined. Because I would rather know where people are at than have to guess and be wrong. I know I'm kind of getting off topic a little bit, but you know, you can't assert yourself in a position without the acceptance of the people that you are trying to assert yourself over. And if you are, you're just an asshole. You're just an ignorant dumbass, you know? Like I don't know. I understand that this is a difficult thing to talk about, and I also understand that most people aren't even going to watch the video. They're just going to comment based on the title, which is totally fine. You know, most people are not even still watching this video. They're just angrily typing in the comments, I'm sure. But I think that this is something that has nuance to it. And again, I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm not saying that the way I'm doing it is how all people that are white making rap should be doing it. But I don't see a lot of white people talking about rap music from this perspective. So I thought it was important for me to share, even though it's, you know, a little uncomfortable to talk about. And I know most people might not agree with me or they might perceive it in a way, which is totally fine because, like I said, this is what I actually think. So I think I would want people to know, you know? It's similar to people who call themselves an ally, you know? Like you're a straight cis person and you call yourself a trans ally, but all you're doing is posting infographics on your Instagram story and you're not actually building relationships with any queer people, you know? In order for you to be an ally, you have to work with the person who is your ally or the group of people who are your ally. They have to accept you as their ally. You can't just be like, I'm an ally. It doesn't work that way. But this all goes back to, you know, colonization. Wow. Surprised to hear that? I hope not. Because there's so many ways where colonization shows up in the world, even when it doesn't seem like it. You know what I mean? Like the guest and hit the House of Hip Hop example, that's still a form of colonization. You're showing up and expecting to just be treated like everybody else and inserting yourself and asserting yourself over a group of people. That is colonization. That's what it is, you know, like, and like I said, my dad was born and raised in the Bronx, which is the birthplace of hip hop, but that doesn't mean that I can claim hip hop. You know what I mean? Because it's not for me to claim. I don't know. I think if you get too in the weeds thinking this way, you'll never make anything as a white person, because if you get down to the roots, you'll learn that most genres of music were created by non-white people. And I don't think it's necessarily okay to, you know, be like, oh, rock is a white genre now, even though it was started by black people. It's just because the roots are further away, so we feel more okay with saying that. You know, the roots of hip hop are still pretty fresh. A lot of people that were there for the inception of hip hop are still alive. So it doesn't feel like it's okay to say that, and I don't think it's okay to say that. But I do think that, like rock music and like house music and all different genres of music that were started by non-white people, eventually hip hop will be perceived as a white genre. That's just my opinion. I think that's how it will go. And, you know, sometimes I feel weird about participating in that and contributing to that, you know? Like, another example that I can use for my personal life is I used to live in New York City, and I lived in a neighborhood that was not gentrified. And I moved there because I had no money, and it was an opportunity that I had to move to New York. I was a little younger, a little more naive, so I took it. But after living there for 3 years in this neighborhood, being one of the only white people that I ever saw on a daily basis, I started to feel guilty about it. I started to feel morally wrong, you know? So when we moved to a different neighborhood that was already gentrified, I felt better about it. Now, that in itself is problematic because I'm benefiting off of gentrification. You know what I mean? I'm not the one actually doing it. I'm benefiting from people that already did it. And listen, I get that these are complex topics. And again, I'm not saying that I'm right. This is just my opinion. So, again, all I try to do is make what I think I should make, say the things that I think, and just see how people react to it, you know? And I think that's what anybody should do in regards to anything that they're making. Don't let outside opinion sway you from what you're making if you believe that what you're doing is right. You know, if you feel weird about it, or if you feel like you should be doing something else, then do something else. But even if you're someone who's like trying to benefit from hip hop, you know, listen, people are going to do whatever they want. There's so many people in the world that are doing horrible things. And again, I really want to make it clear that I'm not defending white people's place in hip hop. Again, I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody but myself. This is just my opinion. And I understand that it's nuanced and it's complicated, but I don't hear a lot of white people talking about hip hop in this perspective. So I thought it was important for me to share my voice. So, and even that right there, you know, I feel weird even saying that because I'm like, all right, now you should listen to what I think about hip hop, but whatever. It is what it is. This is how it is. Man, this is a complicated topic, and honestly, it took me a couple times to record this to get it right, and I still don't even feel like I got it right. But I don't know if I'll ever get it right. So that's it for this video. Let me know what you think. Most people aren't watching; they already commented. But yeah, I'll see you next week.